It is Sunday, June 28th, 2026. Holy heavens. And this is Lunduke's Week in Tech. We're going to go over, just really briefly, some of the crazy news from the last week in the world of tech and open source. Because as usual, it has been a really ridiculously weird week. It has been a roller coaster of a week with ups and downs and good and bad and just all over the map. And when we finish talking about the roller coaster of news, let's palate cleanse. I've got a topic I want to talk about ever so briefly that is just pure joy, is pure modern plus retro computing joy. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's walk through the news of the week, the really big news. First, we kicked off the week with an update to which operating systems are currently refusing to do age verification and ID verification in various forms, and which ones are giving in. And the really peculiar thing about this and about this update is that there really hasn't been a lot of movement. We're quickly gliding towards additional deadlines where state of California and other states and potentially the federal government are going to be imposing age restriction requirements on many systems, particularly if they're working in California. And that's January 1st. That's what is that? 5-6 months, whatever away. It's coming really quickly. And what's amazing to me is we've heard from Fedora and Red Hat, we've heard from Ubuntu and Canonical, and we've heard from a large number of other distributions who have made it clear that they really are planning to do age verification to some degree, whether it's some sort of a lightweight age attestation framework. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to be? But the weird thing is, they haven't shipped anything yet, and we're a few months out from the deadline, which they are, in theory, going to be complying with. And we have yet to hear the full details of how they're going to be complying. It looks like Fedora and Red Hat are going to be cloning the Apple APIs for this sort of age verification framework functionality. Canonical has just been as quiet can be, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to approach this come January 1st. On the other hand, on the good side of things, all of the majority anyway of the operating systems who dug in their heels and said we're not going to do age verification are still not going to do age verification. They haven't budged on it. They're not saying, okay, well, we thought about it and yeah, we're actually going to do age verification. No. Marchy Linux and so many other distributions. Go ahead and click the link and watch the show for all the details. Are digging in and saying no, we're not going to do that. They haven't changed their stance, and that to me is not inspiring, but happy-making. that provides me with a mild sense of optimism that come next January and going further down the line, that there will be options. There will be people who will stand up like Slackware and others who will say, you know what, we're willing to be a legal test case here. We're willing to get lawyers involved with this and not implement age verification, and let's see how that goes. Let's see if the various state and federal and high-level governments, let's see how far down this line they're really ready to go, and that gives me some hope for the future here. And so there's reason for hope there in amongst all of the oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Turning to the web browser thing for a moment. So I talked a bit earlier this week about the Brave web browser having a new paid version where you specifically pay for less features. I think this is amazing. I think this is a great approach for web browsers. For too many years, web browsers have become increasingly bloated as web browser companies have tried to find ways to be profitable. And I don't blame Mozilla and Brave and Opera and everyone else and Vivaldi and it's on and on and on for wanting to earn a profit so they can continue to develop their web browser. I understand that. You have to pay for your employees somehow. But the continued adding of feature after feature and, 15 different VPN clients and everything else, like, oh, okay, well, eventually I'm just like, you know what, strip all this out and give me a web browser, not a VPN client, not a Tor client, not an AI client, not an ad thing. No. I just want a really good web browser. And for Brave to come along and say, okay, we're going to make a minimalist version where you are not the product being sold. Because if you're not paying for something, you are the product, right? And maybe that works out okay sometimes, but a lot of times it ends up meaning that your data is being sold, your time is being sold, etc. And for Brave to come along and say, we don't want you to be the product, you just pay us, $50 or whatever, and you get a license for Brave. You just use it across, I can't remember how many machines it is, but you can use it across a bunch of your machines. I like that. I would like to see more browsers and the like going down that road because, quite frankly, I want minimalist software, and if I need to pay for it to accomplish that, I will. I will gladly pay for high quality minimalist software. But again, watch the whole show for all my thoughts on that. The Wikipedia banning Larry Sanger, the co-founder of Wikipedia, after he said that, hey, Wikipedia should be neutral, is insane. Basically, he stood up and said Wikipedia censors too much, which Wikipedia responded by censoring him. Okay. I mean, that's about as on the nose as you can get. It's utterly ridiculous. But what really makes me happy about this story is that it's getting covered everywhere. People are covering it far and wide. It's being covered in mainstream press. It's being covered. And that is awesome because these sorts of stories need to be covered. For several years, it felt like when there was craziness happening in these tech foundations, whether it was Wikipedia or Mozilla or the Linux Foundation, on and on, it felt like it was either the Lunduke Journal or the Lunduke Journal and like one other journalist. And while that's great, I love being needed, I guess. These are important stories, and they can only go so far when the only game in town covering them is just, just two tech journalists, right? So it's great to see so many different outlets covering the Wikipedia story. And when you read the various coverage, some of them are good actual pieces of coverage where they're actually getting the details right, which is crazy unusual for the mainstream media to cover something that involves tech and actually get the details kind of right. Oh, inspiring, hopeful, optimism. More of that, please. It was great. All right. Let's move over to the XLibre and XFCE thing. So XLibre, the Xorg fork, which got attacked relentlessly and still continues to get attacked relentlessly. You remember GNOME, Ubuntu, and Debian employees and high-ranking leaders joined together to vandalize the wiki pages and the GitHub repositories of XLibre when it first started by defacing it and editing the pages and calling the developers Nazis and all sorts of stuff. Like, it was crazy. The powers that be in open source have done everything they possibly can do to attack XLibre, right? Short of whipping out the lawyers to try and stop them from being a fork, which would be insane. I kind of would like to see Red Hat try that. And yet, despite XLibre being called a vanity fork, a protest fork, etc., a political fork, a politically motivated fork, despite that, it had a major new release just now. And in that singular release, which they have had many of over the last year, In this one release, there were more accepted code commits with more features than over the last entire year for Xorg. Nay, in fact, over the last entire 2 years plus for Xorg in just a month, 2 months, something like that. It's crazy. 3 months? I don't remember. It was not very long. One release. The amount of success that XLibre is seeing, adoption among many Linux distributions, the continual rolling out of new features, new fixes, improvements, new security models, has been absolutely amazing to see. It's good to see open source working. Like this is how open source is supposed to work. People saw something they didn't like. In this case, it was Xorg doing multiple things that people didn't like. First, they were being highly political, and they were banning and silencing people based on politics, and you don't want that in your technology. And the second thing they were doing is they were making a point of trying to kill their own product, their own project. The Xorg developers were stating that they wanted Xorg to die, and they were purposefully withholding not just some patches, but thousands. I think it was like 3,000 patches with new features, new security models, all sorts of improvements, performance improvements, stability improvements, everything across the board. And they were withholding them on purpose because they wanted Xorg to die. They stated this over and over again. And so open source did what open source is supposed to do. If people said, I still want an open source X11 server, I still see value in Xorg, they fork it and continue working on it over here. And that's exactly what happened. That's how it's supposed to work. This is the poster child for how open source can be spectacular. And what amazes me is that representatives from companies like Red Hat continue to attack XLibre because of it. KDE and GNOME both called XLibre Nazis and fascists and attacked them and tried to convince people not to use them. Major distributions have said that no, we won't allow XLibre because it's a Nazi fork and we don't allow Nazis. It's not Nazis. It's just not a political fork. It's not, I mean, it's a political protest fork in that it's not being political. It's just being meritocracy, whereas Xorg is being almost purely political. So it's great to see these sorts of pieces of success happening. This is absolutely fantastic. On the same token with the whole Xorg Wayland thing, XFCE, the XFCE desktop environment, has released a preview release of a Wayland version of XFCE, a Wayland desktop compositor for XFCE, and it was broken beyond words. And it was amazing because it was broken in all of the exact ways that you would expect it to be broken. Because we all know of all of the limitations that Wayland has compared to X11, right? We know there are limitations there. Even if you love Wayland, it is by design more restrictive. You can't, manipulate the window coordinates and sizing of other applications and the like, which is very restrictive for a desktop environment like XFCE. And so, lo and behold, XFCE has a Wayland version, which they spent a substantial portion of their limited funds on accomplishing, and it's broken in all the expected ways. I feel like this right here, what happened this week alone with XFCE and with XLibre, is an example of how things can be done, and it's wonderful, and how things should not be done, where clearly decisions were made for XFCE that were not made from a technical standpoint or for the best interest of the users. And then, of course, there's the Sony PlayStation deal where Sony was deleting movies that people purchased. That was just infuriating. I just hated that completely. But I want to change topics here. So this week, like most weeks, was an absolute roller coaster in the world of computing news. Organizations banning co-founders and corporations taking away access to media you've purchased. Friggin' Sony. Wild stuff. All of that we just talked about. But let's get off of the crazy tech news roller coaster for a moment and talk about something that's truly inspiring and truly importantly, stupidly fun. I would like to point you towards FujiNet. I've talked about FujiNet before, but if you haven't looked at it recently, you owe it to yourself. It is in part a Wi-Fi adapter for a wide array of 8-bit computers, like Atari, Tandy Color Computer, the Coco, Apple II, DOS, all that sort of stuff. But that doesn't really do these sweet little devices justice, because the FujiNet adapters handle all of the internet protocols on device. That allows such feats of technical wizardry as using an Apple II to connect to a modern SSH server running on a Linux host. It's truly wild. Let me read the what is FujiNet thing here to you right now, because this is amazing. FujiNet is a multi-peripheral emulator and Wi-Fi network device for vintage computers. The first completed hardware was for Atari 8-bit computers, and development has begun for other systems with the goal of supporting as many as possible. It already supports a whole bunch of different devices. What sets FujiNet apart from the other Wi-Fi devices is the new network device, the N device or the NDEV. The N device allows vintage computers that do not have enough processing power to handle TCP/IP connections talk to the modern internet over Wi-Fi. Virtual adapters have been created for many protocols, including TCP, UDP, HTTP, FTP, TNFS, HTTPS, including SSL and TLS, SSH, that's crazy, Telnet, WebDAV, and a JSON parser. Seriously, so it can handle incoming sets of JSON and handle parsing the JSON on the FujiNet device itself, so you don't have to load all the JSON and XML stuff into memory on 64K machines, right? Which clearly can't handle that much. It's all on the device with an API for the computer to talk to the FujiNet device for it. It's brilliant. In addition to its extensive networking capabilities, FujiNet also emulates a wide range of classic peripherals, including disk drives with local disk images and network-mounted volumes, cassette interfaces, a modem for BBS communication, printers with output to PDF. Think about that. You can go on an Apple II and print to PDF using a FujiNet. It's nuts. Network clocks, SAM, text-to-speech, a whole bunch of stuff. It's crazy. And the team behind these amazing little gizmos have been working on two new things lately, which is why I wanted to bring this up. Both of those two things brought a tremendous smile to my face. I'm going to show this to you right now here. The first is a series of FujiNet programming manuals and user manuals for each supported retro computer platform. But what's more, what really got me happy here was the team behind this took the extra effort of making the PDF manuals for each platform use the classic styles of each platform's own manual. For example, the Apple II FujiNet Getting Started manual is designed to look like the old Apple IIc manual. Let me see hold on to see if I got this here. Here it is. The FujiNet Getting Started manual. It is patterned after the Apple IIc owner's manual. Beautiful. This is beautiful. There's more here. Here's the Coleco Atom setup manual, patterned after the actual Coleco Atom setup manual. And the reason I'm mentioning this is I have not seen this level of detail and love put into an open source project in years. And I mean, there's some projects I love, but the attention to the detail and the love for these retro computing platforms that the FujiNet team is putting in here deserves mass and wide attention. And yet, look at this. This is crazy. 554 views on X. How is that possible? This is one of the funnest things I've seen in a long time, and people just aren't hearing about it. And so I feel like it's worth talking about here. It's a little touch to make your programming manuals and everything look like those vintage manuals, but that little touch, man, it tells you a lot about the love that these guys have for those classic machines. And that love is infectious. They are bringing classic machines into the modern age. They are making classic machines more usable than they ever were before without modifying the machines themselves. It's just an extra outside adapter. Plugs in, boom, away you go. Amazing. The second thing they've been building is just a ton of fun. It is a set of Android emulators for those retro computing platforms. Now, that's nothing new. There's Android emulators for every retro platform on planet Earth. Great. That's awesome. But these have built-in emulators for the FujiNet. So it's the emulator also emulating a connected FujiNet device, which means that you can, for example, have a FujiNet-enabled color computer online emulated on your Android phone or tablet. And because the team has taken the time to build multiple online multiplayer games with versions for many of the different 8-bit computers, you can use an Android phone to emulate a color computer and play a multiplayer game with someone on an Atari Lynx. Let me show you this here. This is a real thing. Wait, this is part of it. This is some of they're calling it FujiNet Go, combining the emulator and FujiNet into a single app. Here we go. This is a game of 5-card stud being played between an Atari Lynx and an emulated MSX on Android via FujiNet Go MSX. So they have a FujiNet Go specifically for MSX, emulating the MSX platform with a FujiNet attached. And yes, there is a hardware device, a FujiNet, that you can plug into an Atari Lynx handheld with the same 5-card stud game, and they can now play online with each other. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. That is so much fun. It's ridiculous. Now, go check out wherever you're getting this show. Go check out the link to this little article I wrote up. I wrote this up every Sunday of my week in tech with all the links to all the shows for the week. And I've got links to these social media posts, including posts by Thomas Cherryholmes. Thomas Cherryholmes is kind of the driving force behind a lot of this stuff. He's not the only guy working on it, but he's kind of like the mouthpiece and the driving force behind the FujiNet side of things. And he's over on X. His X handle is TSCHAK. Follow him. If you want to see this stuff, he posts this almost every day. He posts a picture or a new PDF file or a video or a link to where you can download an APK to get sideloaded onto your Android device and emulate this. It is infectious. This is so much fun. It's ridiculous. I love the idea of taking not just aging hardware, but in some cases, 30, 40 plus year old hardware. I mean, how old am I now? I am 47, 48, whatever I am now, 47-ish. I was born during the Carter administration. And some of the computers that you can connect with the FujiNet were also created during the Jimmy Carter administration. Some of these computers are older than I am, and you can get them online and play multiplayer games and remotely mount drive images over the internet and SSH into your Linux server from your Apple IIgs. I'm sorry. This is just stupidly cool. That's just fun. It is making computers more fun. It is making computers more usable. I can't think of a single negative thing about this. I very, very much love the idea of the Android emulator, because how cool is that? Throw on Android emulators for an Apple II, a color computer, an MSX, whatever they come out with. Make it full screen on like an Android tablet with a keyboard. Well, now all of a sudden you've got a portable 8-bit computer that's internet connected for pennies comparatively. Awesome fun. And to be able to grab those old pieces of hardware, right? An old DOS PC, because they have an RS-232 version of the FujiNet or anything from the 80s-ish. And get them online and use those beautiful old CRT monitors to actually get real work done, to SSH into your server to get real work done. That's amazing. That's amazing. I wanted to put this out there because, oh my gosh, it's too much fun for words. It is an amazing palate cleanse after dealing with the admittedly important to talk about, but kind of bummery news that is the world of tech computing almost every week. But there are bright spots. There are little bits of joy all over. And to Thomas Cherry Holmes and everyone who's been working on the FujiNet devices, the FujiNet firmware, applications that use the FujiNet API, the PDF files, all of it, you're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, because you are awesome. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for making it possible for me to do the work that I do, to cover the good and the bad, all of the great stuff that happens, all of the bad stuff too, throughout the world of computing every week, especially the stuff that doesn't get covered elsewhere. So thank you so much to all of you who let me do all that work. And if you want to become a subscriber, you can also get on the lifetime subscriber walls of shame, which there are many retro computing themed walls of shame. The Commodore 64 wall just got full. The newest walls, the two newest walls added, I want to point this out here because this is fun, are the Vim and Emacs walls. And we're doing this as a competition. This just rolled out hours ago. And what we're doing is this. The Vim and Emacs walls went up. These are walls 15 and 16 for the Lunduke Journal. Lifetime subscribers to the Lunduke Journal can get their names on this wall. Now, each lifetime subscription gets you one name on one wall. If you want to get more lifetime subscription to get your name on multiple walls, you can, but whatever. If you've already got a lifetime subscription and you haven't gotten onto the walls yet, any of the walls, you can add yourself to either the Vim or Emacs wall. If you want to get a new subscription, you can choose one of these as well. We're going to see which one fills up first. Just got to email me. All my details are at the link for this particular page. That is wherever you're getting this show, along with lunduke.com. Email me. Tell me which wall you want to be on, Vim or Emacs, or one of the other ones, and how you want your name displayed. I'm going to cap it at the same number of names for each. Once they're full, they're full. And the first one to get full will be the winner. I will publish exactly how long each one took to get full, and you will be able to tell your friends definitively either Emacs or Vim is more popular, at least among Lunduke Journal viewers, you know, the smart people on the internet, and by how much. Very, very cool. Just lots of fun. So those are up there right now. You can see those at lunduke.com. I am not going to publish the names as they come in because I don't want anyone to see one wall is pulling ahead of the other until it's over, right? I don't want people to see, you know, when you're watching a race and you're rooting for the race and you see that one is pulling ahead and, if you see, that one's winning, maybe you start voting for the other one real quick. No. All the votes get released and announced to you at the same time. That way it doesn't influence people. So it doesn't cause people to say, wait a minute, Emacs is losing. Vote for Emacs. Get my name on the Emacs wall. None of that. We're just going to see which one is most popular. I release them at the end with the final walls and the final names. Honestly, I don't expect this to take more than a couple of days to fill these up. No matter what, because none of these take very long. The Commodore 64 wall, I think, was full in 10 days. 10 days. Which one? Where's that here? Yeah, this wall filled up in 10 days, a little less, like nine days and some change. I don't expect while other walls were filling up at the same time. So I don't expect the Vim and Emacs wall to take very long at all, in part because they are so sexy. So thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers. Thank you to the lifetime subscribers, both of those of you who have been around for years and years and years now. And years, and those of you who are becoming lifetime and monthly and yearly subscribers for the first time. No matter who you are, thank you. It is truly appreciated. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.